Howdy friends! Now, don't be alarmed by the title of this video, I haven't lost my mind just yet. No Man's Sky and Star Citizen are very different games indeed, but they share a common thread of seamless space exploration. While Star Citizen's obsession with realistic detail and immersive simulation might seem like the opposite of No Man's Sky's procedural generation and arcadey gameplay, they're still like two sides of the same coin to me. I'm Kanaju, and these are 5 things No Man's Sky could learn from Star Citizen. Now don't get this twisted. I don't want No Man's Sky to become Star Citizen. I love No Man's Sky. I love its retro-futuristic aesthetics. I love its bright colors. I love its borderline magic approach to sci-fi. And I love that I can play it on my PS5. Looking at you, Elite Dangerous Odyssey. However, I watch a lot of Star Citizen content on YouTube, and even in its unfinished state, I find the verse has plenty to offer fans of simple space exploration, like me. So, let's take a look at 5 things Star Citizen does that No Man's Sky would probably benefit from adding itself. And remember, you can always add to my list in the comments below. Alright, number 5, spacewalking. Zero-G gameplay. You know what I'm talking about. No Man's Sky players have been requesting the ability to exit our starships in space since the game released. And while the game doesn't have any meaningful reasons to let us explore outside of our ship, Star Citizen shows us what could be. Entering space stations from side hatches, boarding enemy ships, and exploring derelicts. Not to mention exterior repairs. What's interesting is that No Man's Sky is already flirting with the concept. You can walk on the exterior of frigates to make repairs, and your freighter base now allows you to exit the airlock and walk across the exterior. You can even jump off and land on a planet safely, if you know what you're doing. We may not have starships large enough to board, but moving between frigates in Zero-G would be fun. Space stations would obviously be a pain in the ass to enter from a spacewalk, but the derelict freighters we already find in space actually have explorable interiors with destructible walls. You just can't fit your starship in them to explore at the moment. Imagine if you could exit your starship and just search the derelict freighter for yourself. Now, I understand the amount of scenarios they would have to account for in order to make this, viable. What if a player enters a black hole without a ship, right? Well, I would say insta-death in that case. Or what if a player pokes the eye of an asteroid larva without their ship? Also insta-death. What if a player enters a relic gate without their ship? Well, you get the idea. Giving players the ability to float on their own would introduce a new scale to space, and could introduce new opportunities for exploration and salvage. Not to mention, it would be great to not instantly die if I fall off my frigates. Number 4, gas giants. This is another request players have been making for years. Before Star Citizen added the floating city of Orison, Crusader demonstrated how a gas giant might function in No Man's Sky. Devoid of any points of interest, deadly to fly into, but imposing and majestic from a distance. An example of something like this already in the game are the planetary rings that were added in No Man's Sky Next. They're huge, variable, and you can even fly through them. They add to the fantasy of space and the variety of planets without actually affecting gameplay in any way. Of course, it'd be cool if they had unique resources, sure, but honestly, they don't need to do anything. They just need to look cool. And I would say it's pretty much the same for gas giants. They just need to look cool. Maybe they can have, orbital platforms collecting gas that you could land on, or maybe their moons are extra cool or something, but regardless, gas giants are something I'm pretty sure many players would love to see added to the game. Number 3, planetary dungeons. Yes, I know, I never shut up about planetary dungeons, but you know what? No Man's Sky has incredible procedural dungeons in space already. They combine survival, combat, lore, loot, and most importantly, exploration into one unique experience. We just need something like that on planets. In this regard, I actually think No Man's Sky is a little bit ahead of Star Citizen at the moment. However, Star Citizen does have occupied caves and underground bunkers, which No Man's Sky sorely needs. Why underground, you may ask? 2 reasons. Firstly, you can hide the layout of the building from the player, so they don't know what to expect. Secondly, you can load the dungeon in separately and unload the rest of the planet, much like how the long catwalk on derelicts helps load the dungeon in and out. This prevents the game from having to generate the whole dungeon exterior in real time as you're exploring the planet around it. Good for performance, in other words. Thirdly, it keeps it hidden, which makes finding one even sweeter. Wait, actually that's 3 reasons. Regardless, the possibilities for these in No Man's Sky are endless. Ancient underground ruins with booby traps, underground facilities with robotic security, or caves, natural caves filled with dangerous wildlife. I know I've mentioned this all before. Planetary dungeons, they're good for exploration and would help to recontextualize the scale of the universe. When you land, stop into a building for 50 seconds and then take off, it's easy to forget the scale of the planet and the universe you're exploring. I remember when Desolation first released, I spent 30 minutes, in the cramped environment of a derelict freighter, and then when I re-emerged into the infinite expanse of space, I felt like I understood what made No Man's Sky special again. It's a game with huge, expansive areas to explore, but it also has the ability to tell small, intimate stories when you slow down and focus on one area. Funny enough, that's something that Star Citizen also handles pretty well. Number 2, Starship Specialization. Now, I know plenty of you would ask for Starship interiors. The interiors of Star Citizen spaceships? Second to none in my opinion. They're full of thoughtful details and functional purpose. However, they also take a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of personnel to make. And these larger ships wouldn't fit the scale of No Man's Sky's existing ports and landing pads. So, I wouldn't even think about that. Instead, I think a better cue No Man's Sky could take would be Star Citizen's impressive Starship Specialization. Star Citizen ships are really specialized. I'm talking all in. You have salvage ships that are really just made for salvaging, pleasure ships that are luxurious but not great in a dogfight. You have agile fighters, fleet carriers, exploration vehicles, cargo ships, and plenty more. And while there are certainly plenty of all-rounders, most ships in Star Citizen lend themselves to a particular style of gameplay, whereas all starships in No Man's Sky feel about the same. Sure, haulers are slower than fighters, but you could take a shuttle or an explorer to hunt down pirates without a second's hesitation. Heck, I used to use a hauler as my primary exploration and combat ship. I'll be real here, I think it's kinda dumb. I think starships should come with trade-offs. Poor in some situations, but perfect for others. For example, exocraft can already scan for specific structures on a planet, but why couldn't an exploration vessel do the same? It could be a piece of tech only installed on exploration-class starships. And this has precedent as the new solar ships added last year feature Vesper sails, which improve pulse drive efficiency by 80% over other starships and automatically recharge your launch thrusters. That's unique to just that class of starship. Living ships too have unique weapons and fuel sources, so having specific tech for specific kinds of ships is already in the game. So, for example, haulers should have more storage capacity than other ships. Right, you would think, but they don't, which is kind of dumb. So if players want every ship to have max storage because, it's convenient, fine. So then what do you do for haulers? Well, they could have additional shields. I'm talking special shields. Much like how the personal shield on your multi-tool can block all incoming fire, but only from a specific direction. Imagine if haulers could activate a similar shield on their rear to aid in escaping conflict. Or, if you're interested in fighting off attackers, maybe haulers could mount an auto turret to make up for their poor maneuverability, making it more of a tank, right? And that would only be installable on haulers. Fighters might be able to install weapons that other ships can't. Shuttles could be the generic all-rounder in this instance, or maybe to make up for their low stats, they have special inventory slots that aren't scannable by pirates or sentinels, making them good for smuggling. Heck, even exotic ships could have something unique, like the personal cloaking device, but for your ship, allowing you to escape combat. The kind of tech that wouldn't be available to most starship manufacturers. And these are just basic ideas to differentiate ship types. Playing with a different ship should give you a different experience. We can own 9 ships at this point, so outfitting one of each kind isn't an issue if you want to swap them out for different missions. Now, I know people already favor fighters for combat, and explorers and exotics for their warp capabilities, but realistically, it doesn't actually matter all that much. It's more of a min-max thing, if anything. Adding in more specialized tech, and importantly more specialized weaknesses, would go a long way to making actual gameplay more satisfying, not just, stats. Not to mention, fighting AI with these varied abilities would also improve combat. Imagine you're playing as a pirate, right? And you're trying to attack a hauler, and it activates its special shields or an auto turret. Or imagine there's a pirate with an exotic ship, which has stealth capabilities. Just a thought, right? But alright, if you're still with me, we've made it to number 1. The thing I hope No Man's Sky learns from Star Citizen above all else. Well, really it's tied with everything I've mentioned, but you know what I mean. Number 1, empty landscapes. I'm not even kidding. The landscapes of Star Citizen are jaw-droppingly beautiful. And while beauty is in the eye of the beholder, what makes them enticing to me is how empty they are. You have vast deserts, frozen wastes, dead worlds, grassy plains, and whatever is going on here. Star Citizen doesn't feel the need to fill every corner of every planet with stuff, with animals or plants or interactive elements. It trusts that you'll visit points of interest when you're looking for gameplay, so it's free to create a wild landscape where aesthetics come first. Now, don't get me wrong, I think the landscapes of No Man's Sky are also drop-dead gorgeous, and there are also dead landscapes and grassy plains to discover here too. However, the distribution of assets like trees and rocks are pretty homogeneous across planets at the moment. Whether you're on top of a mountain, in a valley, near the ocean, or in the middle of nowhere, you're going to get the same density of trees, grasses, and rocks. Now, I'm not crazy enough to suggest multiple biomes on a single planet, and in fact, I don't think No Man's Sky needs that at all. However, I do wish we had planets with less to do, if only for variety's sake. In real life, I love visiting the desert. I love the quiet stillness of the landscape. I love finding little patches of trees and canyons. However, when I land on any desert planet in No Man's Sky, it's always covered in millions of plants and animals. Now, I understand tropical planets should be full of life, but every planet in the game is covered in life, with the exception of rare, low-atmosphere planets. When No Man's Sky first launched, it was full of planets ranging from empty deserts to lively jungles, and I loved it. After all, alien life should be a special thing to discover, and different types of planets should offer different experiences, not just a reskin. A jungle might be rich in organic resources, while a desert is rich in minerals. However, after launch, players complained about some planets being boring, which led Hello Games to overcorrect, giving us a universe of homogeneous planets, every single one bursting with life. This has had the opposite of the intended effect, as many longtime players now complain that all the planets are boring, since there's functionally no difference between any of them. Sure, the trees, rocks, and animals differ, but you're going to find trees, rocks, and animals on every planet, and distributed in the same ways. Luckily, rocky biomes were added with origins, which sort of fill this need, but even these are still filled with animals, and the trees are just replaced with tree-sized rocks. We need quiet, blank landscapes, miles of sand dunes or snowy fields, the kinds of places that let you contemplate the universe without something calling your attention at every moment. The kinds of places that contrast with the usual explosion of life and help to make those planets even more interesting by comparison. Star Citizen's planet tech is second to none in my opinion, but No Man's Sky doesn't need to replicate it. No Man's Sky has already succeeded in many ways. It just needs a little more variation to really sell that space explorer's fantasy that we all crave. And so, those are 5 things that No Man's Sky could and should learn from Star Citizen. Now, none of them were invented by Star Citizen, and honestly, players have been requesting most of these for years. But Star Citizen acts as an example that demonstrates the value these additions bring to the game and to players. And while I still think No Man's Sky is an excellent game, and that its planets are in a better state than ever, I do wish we could bring back some of those quieter moments that are at the heart of space exploration. At least, in my mind. But what do you think? Would these suggestions improve the exploration experience in No Man's Sky? What other Star Citizen mechanics might work well in No Man's Sky's current framework, okay? We're not remaking the game. And is there anything Star Citizen should learn from No Man's Sky? I'd love to see your responses in the comments below. And don't forget to leave a like or dislike for my efforts. It makes a big difference for me. And if you're interested in more passionate No Man's Sky content, and the occasional Assassin's Creed or Bioshock video, I can use all the subscribers I can get. So thanks for your support, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!